To me, the hunt for buffalo in Africa is one of the classical hunts, and I've been very fortunate. I've hunted buffalo in most of the huntable areas in Africa and most of the subspecies, and I have to tell you there's nothing more thrilling than a good buffalo hunt. And so to that end, let's talk about the guns, the gear, and the preparation for hunting buffalo in Africa. First, when we're talking about buffalo hunting in Africa, let's talk about caliber choices. Now there's a lot of good choices, and frankly most countries in Africa require .375 minimum, and it's a great choice for buffalo. Keeping in mind that shot placement trumps everything. You got to start at your .375, and from there you move up to one of your .416s, the Rigby or the Remington. From there you can go up to the .458 calibers, and even up into the double gun calibers, .470s and 500 nitros. And look, they'll all kill a buffalo, but again, as I say, shot placement trumps everything. Something else you need to consider when you're picking your caliber too, that .375 and .416, including one of my favorites, the .416 Ruger, is a great gun to even shoot longer distance. So keep that in mind as well when you're on a buffalo and a plains game combination. You know, those .375s and .416s, they'll reach out there to easily 250, 300 yards when you've got that world record Kudu standing out there at 300 on your buffalo hunt. Just something to consider. Now that we've covered calibers in considering on your buffalo hunt, let's look at action types. There's 4 basic types. You've got your bolt action guns, your double guns, your single shot, and your lever actions. And frankly, the 2 most practical for Africa is going to be your bolt gun and your double gun. So let's take a look at the pros and cons of both. All right, first let's cover the bolt action gun. There's a lot of pros with the bolt action gun, of course. It's available in a wide variety of calibers, from your .375s all the way up to your .458s. All of which are good calibers. They are often fitted, most bolt action guns we see going to Africa are fitted with some type of a scope, usually variable power, 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 3 to 9, 2 to 8s in those ranges typically, which also allows you, again, if you're on a plains game buffalo combo, that optics can be a big help. The cartridge capacity on the bolt action guns is typically anywhere from 3 to 5 rounds. Again, another advantage for follow-up shot capabilities. One of the nice things about a bolt action gun is they're actually quite affordable. You don't have to spend a lot of money to own one. There's some really great ones out there. For instance, the Ruger Hawkeye African or even Guide Gun series. They're great guns for the money and very reasonable. Now let's talk about the double gun. You know, a few years ago, if you traveled to Africa, probably the only double gun you saw was in the hands of your professional hunter. And you know, here at the SAM School, we're starting to see more and more double guns come through, and we love to see them. They're great guns, and we really are happy to see people practicing with them. And another piece of great news is the fact that manufacturers like Hornady are making a great wide variety of great ammunition for these double gun calibers that work really well.
This time of year, actually we're fairly early. We're one of the first clients into camp. This is the time of year that the buffalo are, the Dagoboys, the big old buffalo, are starting to look for herds. It's their breeding season. And so we're starting to find herds moving. We're also starting to see those big old buffs looking for herds.
We're crossing this one river close to a spring, and there we found 6 Dagoboy tracks.
Gentlemen, we have stopped here because we're going to go and follow some buffalo. We are taking this direction due to the direction of the wind, and we heard some birds, so we're going to try and intercept and meet up with a buffalo. Let's go.
When we were down at the river, they said they heard birds. We don't have heard birds.
Off we go on this death march. We're sweating, we're keeping up a pace that literally you could come close to running a marathon at, and we're sweating. We're marching through stuff, we're walking through stuff. Your arms are cut up, your hands are cut up, everything's cut up, and literally, all of a sudden, everybody stops. Mark says, there's a good buck. We step out, he's 15 yards away. I pull up my .375 Ruger, put it right on his shoulder, and I pull the trigger.
Reload it.
I am. I'm already reloaded.
Okay, take him. Hang on. Come here. Come this side. More, come more. Just below the spine and shoulder there. Well done, sir.
I saw that one. I saw that one. And that was after a forced march. These guys, look how sweaty they are. I'm not even sweating. And you gotta look at my buddy Jack. He doesn't even have to be here, and he walked that far. Holy smokes. Literally forced march, practically running, and all of a sudden tracker's locked up. So there's buffalo right there. I think you said to take him. He was 15 yards away or so. I think I hit him on the shoulder first shot.
Yeah, no, good shot.
Mark backed me up. He fell down pretty much on the spot. Got back up, so he got the full 4 from me. I don't know that he needed him, but he got him, and I'm perfectly happy about that.
It's always good to shoot them if they're on their feet. Huh?
Yep, that's exactly right. Thanks, buddy.
Great buffalo, sir.
Now that we've discussed your different action availabilities, let's talk about open sights versus scopes. You know, regardless of the action that you pick, one of the most important things you can do is pick whether you need open sights or prefer open sights or versus a scoped rifle, and they both have their pros and cons. Now, as a general rule, most PHs prefer the client to have a scope or some type of a sight on the gun versus open sights. Typically what that means to them is they've practiced with it and they tend to be a little more accurate at say 75 and even 100 yards with that gun. The important thing is whichever one you choose, you practice with it on a regular basis. Another advantage that we have with the scoped rifle is you're going to be able to reach out there and touch that kudu again at 300 yards or 200 yards if you're on a combination hunt, buffalo and plains game. And when choosing a scope, let's talk about power magnification. They come in all kinds of variables, 1 to 4, 2 to 8, 3 to 9. If you're going to do a buffalo hunt only with no plains game opportunity, which is rare, you know, your 1 to 4 scope might work just fine. But just be aware, if you've got a 150 or 200 yard shot, that 1 to 4 scope is going to be somewhat limiting. If you're including plains game in your buffalo hunt, which most hunts are today, you might want to consider that 3 to 9 scope. You can always turn it down in power when you're in the up close, but it's sure going to come in handy on that 250 yard kudu shot too. And when selecting your scope, now that we've talked about power, let's also consider that lighted reticle. Look, these buffalo are very black in color and they love deep cover. And a standard black crosshair is going to be a real problem on a black buffalo in low cover, dark cover. So what I would consider is a lighted reticle. It sure allows you to get a quick aim point exactly where that bullet's going to go. You know, in years gone by, the double rifle, if you were shooting one, chances are it had open sights, and we almost never saw optics on a double gun. And those days are changing. Some great options for expanding the distance capability of that double gun is either a red dot such as the RMR or even the Doctor sight. And we're seeing an awful lot of double guns today at the SAM course with great optics on it, 1 to 4 power, 1 to 6 power scopes. And it'll sure turn that 75 yard gun into a 150 yard gun very quickly. It's a great way to hunt Africa. There's a lot of well-built, well-regulated double guns today. Putting an optic on that double gun can sure turn it into a hunting machine, I can tell you. And from what we see, most misses with those double guns today usually are operator error, not the fault of the gun. No matter what caliber or action you've chosen to go with, the thing that's going to do the heavy lifting on this buffalo hunt is going to be your bullet choice. And there's a lot of good choices, so let's take a minute and look at the right bullet construction for your buffalo hunt. Most PHs today, because of the good quality softs that are available on the market, are going to ask you to shoot soft first and then a solid. The reason is they're looking for major tissue damage on that softer bullet, and then on the follow-up shot on the solid bullet is you're often facing a quartering away shot. You might have to travel through stomach paunch or the rear end to travel to the vitals, and also on the solid, it's a great way to break bone And with the second and third shots on the solids, you're going to look to break down that buffalo as quickly as you can. And the same is true on that double gun. I highly recommend, and most PHs will ask you to shoot a soft on that first barrel and a solid on that second one. Now that we've talked about actions and optics and bullets to choose from, let's talk about some other gear that's often overlooked and sometimes can make or break a hunt. First, let's talk about binoculars. This is an often overlooked area that really needs careful consideration. And two really important things to consider here. Number one is size and weight. We often see hunters taking binoculars that are way too large to Africa. You need a binocular, say in the 8 to 32 size that you can tuck in your shirt, put away easily in your pocket, because let's face it, your PH is going to be doing most of the looking through your binoculars. You want to help him, so you need binoculars, but keep them lightweight and easy to put away. Allow me to give you some of the best advice I can about binoculars. I have seen an awful lot of shot opportunities missed by the hunter looking through the binoculars when the sticks are up, or even oftentimes you'll know when a buffalo are close. The last thing you need to do is have those binoculars up to your face. You need to stay ready so when the sticks go up, the only optics you're worrying about is one's hooked to the top of your gun. Next piece of gear I'd like to talk about is a way to keep your ammunition organized. And folks, it's real simple. There's really two choices. You can get a pouch to hook onto your belt to wear on your hip, or you can actually get an ammo belt that goes on over your outer belt that's easy to take on and off. But the most important thing is you want to have the rounds accessible, easy to get to, and noiseless. Let's talk about clothing. This is very, very important, especially when hunting buffalo. These animals have great eyesight. And what you want to do is you want to wear dark greens, dark browns. You don't have to get into the camouflage. In fact, in some countries, camouflage is not appreciated nor welcomed at all. So stay to the basic dark greens and dark browns. You'll blend in just fine. Now let's talk about one of the most important pieces of gear you can take on your hunt, and that's footwear. Because folks, buffalo hunting is a lot of walking. And the last thing you need is footwear that's uncomfortable or going to cause blisters, and that's a great way to ruin a buffalo hunt. It's always a good idea to consider taking two pair. One, your main pair, and then a backup just in case. One of the things you want to truly consider is making sure they're soft-soled so that they're quiet, and that most importantly is they're well broken in so they're not going to give you those blisters. And another piece of gear, speaking of footwear, that always works its way into my pack is a little package of moleskin or second skin, something to cover up that hot spot on your foot in case you are getting a blister. You know, chances are you've worked long and hard to get there on that buffalo hunt. The last thing you need to do is let that big opportunity get away from you because you were not fully prepared and physically prepared for that buffalo hunt. Look, buffalo hunting is a hunt of endurance and a lot of walking. And I recommend a training regimen for yourself, starting at least 4 to 6 months before your hunt. Get out there and walk. Sometimes carry a backpack, sometimes don't. Put some weight on yourself, but do at least walk 4 to 5 miles every week. And some days, maybe on the weekends only, just push it 2 to 3 miles in one day. Because it's very likely, and some days you will walk 4 to 5 miles a day after that buffalo. And the longer and further you can walk and stay in good shape and stay ready to make that shot, the better chance you have of killing that big one.
Thank you, Mo.
Immediately out of camp, 15 minutes or so, we ran into some Duggaboys. Very close, and one of them very big.
One look at the small herd revealed several shootable bulls. Harpreet and his tracker made an approach that would get Mike into range of Mike's double rifle, which meant that they would need to be within a 70-yard window. Moving carefully, Harpreet tried to get Mike into position on a beautiful bull which was feeding in some tall grass. Ever cautious of the wind, Harpreet moved in behind the feeding buffalo, trying to isolate the big bull he had seen at the start of the stalk. Using the available cover, The hunters quickly closed the gap, putting them in range of Mike's double rifle.
Well, I wanted to use my double, and we got the opportunity, but we couldn't get close to the herd, so we broke off for lunch.
All right, well, about 300 yards of crawling here. First on our hands, then me on my butt, because I wore my hand out. The wind keeps switching on us. We couldn't get close, so we're gonna go have some lunch and think about it again, see where they are, see if the conditions are a little more favorable. Anyway, it was good fun. They got a really great, non-typical bull in there we'd like to get. So, maybe so.
Harpreet wisely decided to let the buffalo settle down, so he and Mike took a quick lunch break. As the herd had not moved far, it was relatively easy to make contact with the buffalo, which were resuming their own afternoon feed. After a final crawl through some long grass, Mike was well within range of a trophy buffalo, and the sticks slowly came up.
Yes. Good job. Beautiful boy.
Beautiful.
You've put in the money, and you've put in the time and the miles, and all of a sudden that big buffalo hunt's gonna come down to one thing, and it's that shot. Are you ready for that shot? So let's talk about just that, shooting preparation for your buffalo hunt. It's not easy to stay in shooting shape. One of the first steps I think that's most important is go get trained at a good school, good hunter training school. And there's several of them out there. I happen to be particular to the SAM course. But one of the important things that we teach the student is how to shoot properly and be ready in high pressure situations, and then practice that again and again and again. The foundation to good shooting is learning how to shoot that gun and manage the recoil and manipulate the trigger without moving the gun so the bullet goes exactly where you want it to go. And going to the bench, to the range, and shooting on a bench is not the proper way to train, because there's no benches in the field that I've ever seen. One of the most important things you can do as often as you can is go to the range and simulate field conditioning shooting, especially in Africa. It's going to be off sticks most likely. So let's simulate that, play with that, test it, become better at it. Use dry fires. You don't have to shoot your gun every time. If it's a double gun, make sure you use snap caps. But on your bolt action guns, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire. And one of the best things about that is you'll learn when you're doing proper trigger manipulation and handling your gun properly, that reticle won't move once that firing pin goes forward. It's your best friend, I promise you. One of the advantages of going to a school, especially the SAM school, they have a lot of charging targets, life-size, interactive targets, so that it keeps you prepared and keeps you ready for when that once-in-a-lifetime shot comes up. And hey, at the end of the day, if something goes wrong in your hunt, like a buffalo starts charging you, do you know exactly what you're going to do? Well, the SAM school prepares you for that. One piece of gear you're going to have to know how to use in Africa is shooting sticks. And unfortunately in America, we don't often use them growing up, and most people actually don't really understand how to use them. The first day on safari is not the place to learn how to use shooting sticks. Here at the SAM Safari School, we're going to show you lots of different ways to use those sticks and a wide variety of sticks. We particularly use bog pod the most because they're adjustable and typically quiet. And I take a set of bog pods with me on every hunt I go on. And by the way, it's fun. I've never come home with a pair of them because all the PHs make me leave them with them. We're going to show you in the SAM school how to use even 2 sets of sticks very rapidly and very effectively. Your PH will be impressed, I promise you. Another thing that cannot be emphasized enough when you're preparing for your safari is continued practice in shooting in a variety of positions. Standing, sitting, prone, anything that you can do in multiple positions to keep yourself prepared. An extremely important thing you need to do when you're practicing to get ready to go on that buffalo hunt is practice rapid shooting and reloading. And also understand when you're learning how to reload, what if you get a jam? What if that empty casing got jammed up in your action? Do you know how to get out of that quickly? It's very important to practice that. At SAM, we're going to show you not only immediate follow-up and reload, but we're also going to jam your gun for you and teach you how to unload it, again safely, and keeping that muzzle in a safe position at all times. The prepared hunter is a successful hunter. And I've been at this a long time, and I have to tell you, getting ready for that hunt is one of my favorite parts. Between the physical training and practicing with your gun and packing your gear and unpacking it and making sure you got it right, it all leads up to a fantastic time. And I can assure you, if you'll take what we've talked about here today and take it to heart and put it to use, you're going to have a lifelong memorable hunt.